गोली से मर गया। वकाबिल का आंदोलन चल रहा था कि पीछे में कौन पुलिस मारा कि पब्लिक मारा, समझ नहीं आया कौन गोली मारा। वो इसका 1 साल का लड़की है, उसका क्या होगा? सरकार कुछ करिए तो खूब अच्छा होगा।
The Government of India, Ministry of Home Affairs, has deployed central forces in sufficient numbers, and more reinforcement is ready for any action anytime.
It is the BJP which is flooding the internet with fake photos and fake videos of violence and arson and passing it off as if this is all happening in Bengal. These are photos and videos from other states which the BJP is passing off as if it's happening in Bengal. This is the BJP's campaign of lies, campaign of communal polarization, campaign of the politics of incitement.
Hello and welcome to The Wire. 3 people have died as a result of violence last week in Bengal's Murshidabad district. It erupted in clashes in the wake of the Waqf Act amendments, which were passed through Parliament recently. While the state administration has claimed the situation is under control, the latest round of violence has exposed deep fault lines in an increasingly polarized state. Many have claimed that it has exposed the administration's inability to anticipate or contain unrest. So, was the violence communal, or was it actually the politics that led to it that is communal and which is to be blamed? We have political analyst Aparna Bhattacharya, who is a frequent writer at The Wire, to answer some of the questions on the issue. Aparna, hello.
Hi, thank you very much for having me here.
Hi.
Yeah.
Will it be possible for you, Aparna, to sort of begin at the beginning? There have been Waqf protests across Bengal and across India. And this is also not the first time that Murshidabad is in the news. So, what is it about the protests this time that led to this conflagration? I'll also shed a little light on your reporting and the reporting you have done in collaboration. So, we do know that Murshidabad has a significant Muslim population. Many of your recent reports note that it is also the site of Hindutva politics, which has been growing
Yes.
there of late. There have been reports on a Ram temple being constructed.
Yes.
And also Hindutva leaders have been making inflammatory speeches there.
Yes.
Last year, you'll remember that there was an objectionable message which was flashed across a light board during a religious festival. It led to tension. It led to the stopping of internet, mobile internet in some places of the district. So what are we missing when we discuss Murshidabad, and what is it that we don't realize when we say that this is a communal conflagration that took place as a result of the Waqf protests?
So I would say that this is not really an isolated incident. We cannot say this is a result of Waqf movement or something like that. 2 things I would like to mention at the very beginning. One, that I at least firmly believe that riots or any kind of communal tension happens or can be prevented if the administration was prompt. Any kind of communal flare. That they were prompt, they were very sincere in doing this. That doesn't mean I am blaming the state government for this, but probably they were caught unaware of the situation. This is the first part. Second part is the whatever we are seeing is there are multiple layers to it. It is a religious obviously flare up, but then there are other aspects to it, like the unemployment problem, the poverty, overall continuous hate speech that we have been seeing. You remember that I wrote an article that we are thankful that there is no violence happened in Ram Navami. 1 week later, we are where we, I mean, what we are fearing. So eventually, if you look at this, even though we have avoided communal flare up in Ramnavami, within the next 7 days that happened. So there was a tension that was always there. There is for years now the hate speech that is happening from coming mainly from, I would say, from the BJP, BJP leaders in West Bengal. So that also has somewhat, there is an impact that created a division that the on and then obviously I will not give a complete benefit of doubt to the state government as well, because uh, if we look at again the history, I will go back. So the government, state government also did from the very beginning. So like if we go back to 2011, they came, with the development agenda, governance agenda. But in the last 15 years, because 14 years, I would say, we have seen that the party society that there are a lot of critics to the party society structure that West Bengal had. That has, been replaced with a communal, more of a religious, society where the even the ruling party is not separating the religion from the governance part or the state part. And today, when we are discussing this, Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee is inaugurating the Kalighat Skywalk. Later this month, she will be inaugurating a temple sponsored by the state government. Earlier this month, she attended a Eid, the Eid, the prayer that happened on Red Road, where she made a very political speech. So I will not put the entire blame. I mean, both. I would put both the BJP and TMC responsible for whatever we are seeing in Murshidabad today.
Yeah, I relatedly, Aparna, we've been seeing reports, especially on TV, of people saying that their houses have been set on fire, people in Murshidabad district, and that they've had to leave their homes and take shelter in schools. So my question really would be, who gains when something like this happens, because clearly it's not people who live in these areas. In the report for The Wire, which was co-authored by you, we have quoted a CPIM politician as having said that both the TMC and the BJP are the beneficiaries of such violence in Bengal. So are there electoral dividends to be had from such violence? Do you see this increasing polarization stopping only after the 26 elections, or ever at a point?
I don't think it would stop even after 2026 election. That is, see, there was a fault line that was always there. There is a fault line. There is a politics of memory that BJP has been using for long. The partition was bitter. There was a Hindu-Muslim, uh, you know, there was some kind of tension, or there's some kind of discomfort. Even though people would like to say West Bengal is very secular and everything, there are, if you see West Bengal mohallas, for example, there are clear ghettos. Like even in Kolkata, for example, it's a largely cosmopolitan city, but it is also one of the most ghettoed cities where Muslims live in one part of the city or certain pockets of the cities. So that was always there. The fault line was always there. What BJP did was, BJP created the rift wide open. They brought the politics of memory, created the communal tension, they brought in the trauma of partition. And then after that, the Motua community who were persecuted in Bangladesh, which cannot really be denied. So they created all these things. So for years, this was happening. The
Aparna, I think we are not able to hear you properly. Not very clearly, Aparna. I think our audio problems are still persisting. While Aparna fixes her audio,
This is okay now?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
what I was saying is the RSS has been expanding its presence across the state. You know, we see a few of them, but they are working at multiple layers. You know, like I mean, I was reading a report. So there are 30 organizations which are directly linked with RSS, which are working in West Bengal currently. Some of them are known, but most of them are, working in different levels. So people do not even recognize that they are the RSS shakhas that are working. So that plan is already there. The communal reef part that was, that was BJP agenda that was there. The electoral benefits, yes, definitely it helps. In India, for example, every time a riot happens, it largely benefited BJP. I mean, for the past 30, 50 years. So obviously, it helps them, polarization, Hindu polarization, but it also helps polarization for Mamata Banerjee. Because the as per last census, 2011 census, it was 27%, but many believe the Muslim population is largely around 34-35%. I mean, there is a filling. When we check the photo list, it's closely 30-31%. If we don't have a census, but it could be 33-34%. So, and CSDS reports or many surveys, post-poll surveys also indicate that Muslims largely favored Mamata Banerjee to a large extent for the fear. Uh, for the fear or for the safety, and I cannot blame them also, because what the instigating speeches that a Dilip Ghosh or a Shubhendu Adhikari makes often, it would definitely create a certain kind of tension for the community. And yes, it does. So that definitely helps TMC. But having said that, there are theories that this is being created, to divert attention. I will not entirely subscribe to this. I will not entirely subscribe to this. I will not call it an you know, entirely organic thing to divert attention from the SSC scams, even though there are many theories on this. I don't think so. There were fault lines. Wakaf, Ram Navami, there was a massive display of, the both the ruling party and BJP, they both have like large processions of Ram Navami. There are instigating speeches. So that also have an impact uh, um, on the minority population. So it eventually flared up. The government could have controlled it, but yeah.
This actually leads me to my next question, Aparna.
Yeah.
BJP politicians, they've been very active in the last few days. They've
Yeah.
also posted footage of the purported violence, and most of them have said that this is directly Mamata Banerjee's fault, that the police, which is supposed to be directly under her control, has failed. Do you feel really that there was ample indication that police ignored visible signs of rising
Yes,
tension,
I
or
would agree to that. To some extent, I would agree to that. I mentioned at the very beginning that police could have, for example, today there was a protest by the ISF. Another, which one was which is led by Naushad Siddiqui in Bhangur. Bhangur again is a very sensitive area, and there was a lot of political violence, and so the police took an initiative, and the crowd that basically gathered, even if before there was any kind of violence and everything, they cleared the mess. And there was a walk-up protest which happened a couple of days back in Kolkata. So that was also, many people said it was quite wild. That could have been also, a bit controlled or something. There are some provocations or some, imagery which which actually helped BJP leaders to, further their agenda. So that could have been avoided. Um the police, but after a point of time, I think the police, it went out of their hand. Say, for example, though there are two who were killed in the violence, and CPM, in fact, largely it is now, I mean, it is reportedly clear that they were CPM supporters who were killed in the violence. There are three victims of this violence. Two were CPM supporters and one, so two were from one community and another one from another community. One was the family alleges it is a police firing, and the second one was a violence. These two were uh, CPM supporters. There were reports, and according to the families, that they in fact called the police many times when they were anticipating some kind of violence, or they were under attack, because we are not getting too much information because of internet restriction, but this is what we have gathered so far. And that shows that police actually came late. Now it can happen that because of violence going on, there were road blockage and everything, police took time to arrive there. We are not very clear on that, but yeah, police could have been more proactive.
Yeah. Aparna, on to my final question, and this is something that a colleague highlighted that you've spoken of quite a few times. Why do you feel that Bengal is prone to violence like this? What is it about Bengal's young people that makes them susceptible to politics like this? That you've pointed out, especially the fact that people who we see in the footage shared, they don't look like they look malnourished often. They are people who clearly are not in the
Yeah,
best places of their lives. What
yeah,
is it
yeah.
that is happening right now with youth in Bengal?
Unemployment and education, the issue in education sector. So I can give you some numbers, but often it gets missed. But in Bengal, the average wage or average wage is normally, I mean, lower than the national average. The agricultural wage. Sorry, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So in Bengal, the minimum wage is actually lower than the national average. There is unemployment. Say, for example, 80 to 85% of West Bengal employment is on the unorganized sector. That is higher than the national average. And for the youth also, especially the rural youth, rural unemployment is actually even worse than the urban unemployment. So what is there for them? So I'll give you one statistics. This is something I find a bit startling. So almost 31% of the gig workers registered in India is from West Bengal. So this is not a number. This does not, if you take the demand side of it, it does not really mean supply. So actually, these people are registering as a gig worker because there is not much job at the you know, organized sector. So this is their own. And the options are limited. Agricultural income. So we are seeing this violence in Murshidabad. Murshidabad is predominantly an agricultural economy. There is only another industry, that is dairy industry, which largely employs women. Again, the income is not much. The daily income is lower than it's not the what it should. So this is an exploited community. Well, Muslims, in any case, across India, Muslims are, uh, marginalized in the organized sector. In organized sector also, large population are in the on the migrant. They are migrant workers in West Bengal, large section of them, and the dropout rates. 30% of West Bengal kids who are completing 16. They are not completing their school education. They are dropping out. 30% of the male students are dropping out. We are hearing a lot of things about Kanyashri, the girl incentive scheme and everything. But every year, if you look at Madhyamik or, I mean, state board examinations, the numbers are going down. It's not that they are moving to ICSE or CBSE, anything like that. They are simply dropping out. 40% for the Muslim community, the number is even lower. They are much poorer than the larger section. So this is a reflection. This is unemployed. They are unemployed. So that there is anger. There is dehumanization. There is constant dehumanization from the BJP leaders. There is unemployment. There is a income generation wise. There is a crisis. There is insecurity also. So all these things are leading up to a lot of anger. Here, I'd like to point out another thing. West Bengal has always been a violent state. Even during the left period, you will see that it is the highest level of political violence. It is always known as a very violent state. So now what has happened, as I mentioned earlier, the party society is replaced by on a religious line. So that's why we are seeing the political violence. Earlier, what we were seeing as a political violence, now we are seeing more of a religious violence. So that part is there. It is a very much deeper crisis, I would say. I find, I'm very, very worried, very, very tense also about 2026 election and the run up to it. Yeah, that's what it is.
Thanks, Aparna, for giving us such a holistic view of this
Thank you.
continuing crisis in Bengal. This ends our live for today. I hope viewers have got some idea of what this ongoing violence has been about and what led to it, most importantly. That's it from us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.